Hi everybody, so I haven't done a vlog for a couple of weeks now because I've been really busy, been at events a lot, which has been taking up a lot of time, and even though I've filmed lots of cool stuff, I haven't had time to sit down and actually put something out properly. So yeah, it's Friday afternoon now, it's raining really hard outside and I'm just having a cozy afternoon, done some paperwork and stuff, and I was doing some work and I thought, why don't I do a little vlog? And I thought I would do a blog about work, i.e. about what it's like having your own company, which is what I do. So I thought I'd sit down and give you my top 3 pros and top 3 cons of what it's like running your own business. So before I get started, there's a million bad things I could say about running your own business. There's also probably a million good things as well, but I will say that I love what I do. I'm very, very fortunate in what I do and being able to make an actual, at the moment, sustainable living out of running my own company. Just to give you guys a bit of background, if you don't know, there's 2 things that I do for a living at the moment. Well, I have a company which does 2 things. One of them is I teach slacklining. So we run a small business called the Slackline School, which goes to events, festivals, schools, all kinds of things like that. Yesterday we were at a country show in Devon. Tomorrow we're at another country show up north, actually. It's country show season at the moment. But we also do things like bar mitzvahs, weddings, all kinds of weird fun stuff like that. And that's been going for about 5 or 6 years, and a friend of mine helps me a lot with that, Chris Wilkins, who's an amazing guy. And a whole bunch of other people help me with it as well, actually, which is really, really cool. So that's one side of what we do. The other side, also in events, but is being a professional mountain biker. So RPM is the bike trial show that I have, and we go all over the country. We haven't had anything on this week, which is actually really nice to have a little break in the middle of the season. But next week we've got like 5 days back to back of shows everywhere from Bath up to Yorkshire, back down to Hampshire, going all over the place, riding bikes and entertaining people. So that's kind of what I do. And I've done, well, those 2 things have been my main source of income for the last 5-6 years now. So yeah, again, very, very fortunate, but that's what I do. And I was just thinking this morning, I had a few rather irritating phone calls, and I thought, you know what, think of some of the positives as well. And then I was like, oh, I've got some positives and some negatives. There's something cool to talk about there. And I was actually talking to myself, and then I was like, you know what, let's put a camera out and tell people all about it, because that'd be more interesting. So I'm going to do, how am I going to do this? I'm going to do 1 pro and then 1 con. Yeah, I'll do that. So first of all, of the pros, the first thing, which I think is a positive about running your own business, is getting paid to do what you love. Which is not the same for everyone. You know, I know some people may run a business and be the person who is in charge of that business, but they don't particularly like what they do. I've not come across many people like that, because I think very, very few people have to run your own business, you have to have a lot of get up and go. You have to have a lot of determination to do something, and not many people can do that with something that they don't really like or care about or aren't passionate about, unless the thing that you're passionate about is just making money and, you know, being in business. So yeah, there's different ways to look at that, but I'm very fortunate, definitely, because I get paid to do what I love. And some days I forget that I love what I do. Some days I really do go, oh God, this is awful, I'm just longing for a day job. But those days don't last for very long, and I don't think about that too hard. No, I'm tremendously lucky that what I do is what I love, and I get paid to do that, which is great. Okay, first of the cons. Bad thing that I can think of in my particular business is antisocial working hours. So I do a lot of work at events. Most events are at the weekend, which means when I'm here in Falmouth and buddies or friends or other people are ringing me up and going on like Friday evening going, hey, we're all going down to the pub, or we're all going to go to the beach, you want to go and do something, because they've all finished their 9-to-5 jobs. And I'm like, no, I'm driving to Manchester. And that's a lot of weekends for me, and I do miss out on a lot of stuff, I guess, because of that. So yeah, there is a lot of antisocial working involved in that. So the second one of the positives actually follows on kind of from the negative one there. The second one I've written down, I've got a little list here of things I need to remember. But the second thing is being your own boss, which actually kind of takes that thing about antisocial working hours and puts it into context otherwise. So at the moment it is 2:35 on Friday afternoon, and what I'm doing right now is nothing to do with my job. I'm just making a blog because I've decided that this is what I want to do this afternoon. I've been working all morning. I got up at 8 o'clock, having been all over the place yesterday. But outside of events and things, I'm the person that decides how long I have to work for. And I do work a lot. I actually weirdly hold down almost a 9 till 5 just here in the office. So what you're looking at here is what's behind me is what's behind me all the time when I'm at my desk. So this is literally where I sit and work. I probably don't do like 40 hours a week. Some weeks I might do, some weeks I'll do ages of sitting at my emails and stuff. And sometimes Lucy will come home and it'll be 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, and I'll still be here doing emails and stuff. And I will have been doing that since 8 o'clock in the morning. So because I'm just in the zone and I'm feeling good about emailing people, which is 90% of what I do is just having to contact people and cold call people, unfortunately, really, and just say, hey, do you want a bike show at your event? Do you want some slack lines at your event? Stuff like that. But I mean, getting to be my own boss, like not having to, I don't get paid holiday leave throughout the year, but I can just say, let's go away for a week, and I don't have to run that by anyone else. I can get to 12 o'clock in the middle of the day and say, I'm going to go to the pub, or I'm going to go out and ride my bike, or I'm going to go do this, that, and the other. So being my own boss, even though with my particular skill set, I could probably go out, maybe not riding bikes, I couldn't go out and make as much money as what I'm making now, but I could go and work for someone else and make more money, but they would be in charge. So I'm quite happy where I am, earning less money, but being able to structure my own time, which for someone like me, particularly thinking about someone who has autism, is really important. Number 2 on the cons list is basically, this is a hard one to say because we have 99% of the people that I work with, or we work with through the Slackline School and through RPM, are wonderful, are great, but and they're the ones, annoyingly, who pay you on time, and you don't have to hassle or have any worries with. The main reason I thought about doing this blog this morning was because this morning I spent 25 minutes on the phone to a third-party company that works for a client that we've done some work for, who are really lovely people, but they have another company that deals with all of their finance and stuff, and I sent them an invoice 6 months ago, and I'm still chasing it up now. And that's hugely frustrating because cash flow is so important. I can't just turn around to my landlord and say, hey, I'm not going to pay you this month's rent until next month or the month after, or till whenever I feel like it, really. You're cool with that? That's fine, right? I can't just go to my landlord and say that. I can't go to the gas company or anyone else and say that. They'll just cut me off. If HMRC says you owe us taxes, it's like, this is the time when you pay taxes. Before that, if you pay before that, that's fine. After this is where we take you to court and then you die. Basically, that's it. But I haven't got the power to really do that. I can, and I have in the past sent invoices to people who have been really, really late on payments, and sent second invoices basically with an added penalty on, which is usually 8.5%, and just say, look, which is a clause that's written into our invoices, which are legal documents. Some of our less great clients don't seem to believe that, but I heard a really great one once from someone. I said, look, you've been overdue for 2 months now, I've got to send you another invoice with a penalty thing on it. And the person on the end of the phone said, we don't pay penalties. I was like, what? Like, it's like, that's like going into a shop and just picking something up and walking out and saying, oh, I don't pay for this. Like, it's the law. But it's very hard for me to enforce that law, especially with someone who I want repeat business from. So it's a tricky one, that. So chasing people is really hard, and I always go in very apologetically. Sort of like, I'm really, really sorry, but you haven't paid us. And that is by far one of the worst parts of this job, because, you know, in no other job that I can remember being in, I've done a few different jobs, I can never remember having to chase people for my paychecks. Like, I've had to chase people for contracts and stuff like that and other things, but money is what, unfortunately, at the moment makes the capitalist world that we live in go round. There's no, and I'm not being facetious when I say that, it's the truth. You know, without money and finances and stuff keeping people going, yeah, it would be anarchy. So yeah, if you're one of the hundreds and hundreds of really great clients that we have, I love you so much. Thank you. If you're one of the few that really struggle with paying people on time, then let's up the game. Let's try and, you know, be nicer to each other. Okay, number 3 on the positives is travel and opportunities. Really, I can't describe some of the things that I've got to do from having this job and being self-employed. You know, I've ended up Glastonbury Festival 5 years in a row. That's been really, really fun. This year was probably the best year I've been, and it was super amazing. I said to one of my other friends who runs another bike team, I said this to him a couple of years ago, I said, you know, well, the great thing about this job that we have is the whole country sort of turns into your playground, because and he agreed with me, because he's like, if you're driving to Yorkshire, for example, from Cornwall, then how many places are there along the way that you can stop off? And sometimes I'll go like a day early, and I'll go and ride in the Peak District. I made a video on here actually a couple of blogs back, me riding at the Roaches. That was a day when I was on my way to an event up there. So literally I just went via the Roaches and rode my trials bike, well, my enduro bike, and I wouldn't get the opportunity to do that any other way. I'm certainly not going to drive just from Cornwall all the way up to the Peak District just to have a ride. So you know, when I was driving from Glastonbury to Glasgow, I did a really long trip up to Scotland. It was a long trip in a short time, but I stopped off on the way and went via the Lake District and went for a swim in a lake there because I could. It's really, really fun. And the other amazing thing about it, having all this internal travel, is keeping in touch with friends of mine that I otherwise really wouldn't see. I have so many friends in places like London, Bristol, Manchester, and being able to, especially with social media these days, being able to put something on Facebook saying, hey, I'm in West London tonight, anyone around? And if I'm lucky, half a dozen of my old buddies will be like, hey, let's go for a pint, or one or two of them sometimes. I remember being stuck in bank holiday traffic in 2016 trying to drive out of London, and not even joking, it took me 5 hours to go 5 miles. It was awful, and by the time it got to like 7 o'clock in the evening, having left at like 2:30 or 3 o'clock, I just rang one of my buddies who was in Ealing, and was like, dude, what are you doing? He was like, I'm in the pub, man, it's Bank Holiday Friday. And I was like, brilliant, I will be there in 5 minutes. And I was trying to get to Wales that day and I didn't, but being able to just have friends about the place that you can stop and see is a really, really fun part of not all self-employed jobs. A lot of self-employed jobs mean you stay in the same place, but mine, I'm very fortunate, it takes me all over the country, so it is really fun. And the last of the cons, the last of the negatives, the one I've written down here just says no security. And it's a fair enough point to make that being self-employed, especially if you're doing something like what I'm doing, does mean you have no security. I remember when I was a teenager talking to someone, I worked in a pub called Wetherspoons. The pub was called the Coal Orchard. It was a Wetherspoons chain pub. And I remember talking to one of the guys there, and he said, you know, I don't love this job, but it's a good job. There's money attached to it, and he said it's a safe job. It's a secure job. This company is always going to be here, and there's always going to be people that want cheap beer and food and stuff. So yeah, and I thought that did sound cool. I thought that made sense. But now I've grown a bit, and there's no disrespect to that person who was just, you know, making a valid point at the time. but I don't think there's any such thing as a really secure job, and mine certainly isn't. But especially when you look at something like Enron, for example, if you've never heard of Enron, Google them. There's a fantastic film called The Smartest Guys in the Room, which was about Enron, which was a very corrupt American conglomerate who basically went from having enormous, unbelievable amounts of wealth to nothing in like 48 hours in a financial crash in the early 2000s, through their own recklessness, basically. But they were hailed as a company that was too big to fail. And so that's kind of, it's worth pointing out when I say about a job having no security. I don't think any job has security. My dad was a very wealthy person for a large portion of his life, running a telecommunications company and being a consultant and stuff, and he lost it all in a very short space of time. So I've always thought myself lucky to have had sort of that experience, which sounds ridiculous, but it's toughened me up a little bit in thinking about, not that my dad was reckless with money, he was just unlucky, I think, but also just sort of being happy for what I've got now, and also at the same time planning ahead, because my job is definitely not a really secure job. Firstly, I could go out tomorrow and break my leg, and that would be a huge problem because I probably wouldn't be able to earn money. I'm actually in the process of looking for some insurance for myself. My company obviously has public liability insurance that covers us during shows and stuff, but I'm looking to see if there's some life insurance that I can get, because literally if I go out tomorrow, even if I break like that finger, then that's going to be a really big problem in terms of earning money, especially for the next month or so. And also, like I found this year. So last year, I'm not particularly coy about telling people how much money I make and earn, but I'm not going to give any specific figures here for a bunch of reasons. But either way, last year we made X amount, and it was a great year, and it was really nice. And we worked with a load of amazing clients. We went to places like Jersey, we went to places like Scotland. We had great fun with it, and it was awesome. This year, I sort of naively figured we'd also earn X amount. What we actually we've made roughly this year is Y, which is basically about 2/3 of what X is worth. So about 30% of the money that we made last year is not coming in this year, and that's scary. That's really scary, because you think that 30%, which has basically come from lots of cancellations at events, lots of uncertainty, especially in the political climate that we have now. A lot of town councils are going, we don't know what to do with money and stuff like that because we don't know what's happening, which is completely fair enough. But yeah, it's scary when you sort of go, oh God, I don't know what we're going to do because we haven't got any, what if that 30% next year turns into 60% or 70%? Then it's almost in the realms of oh God, do I need another real job then? After that, I'm pulling my hair out just thinking about it. But yeah, it's very scary. But at the same time, I have to sit down and think it's only as scary as any other job, because any company can fail. So that's just where it is. But that's what it's like running your own business, especially if you run a business and you have other employees. If you're a good person, which I'm sure all of you who are watching this are, if you're a good person, you run a company and your company starts to fail, the thing that you really have to do is sort out the people who have been working for you, and you sort yourself out last, I think. I'm worried that soundbite is going to come back to bite me, but it's true. You have a lot of responsibility when you run a company, and you can't just leave that responsibility when things start to go not great. So yeah, it's a tough one. I said I was going to do 3 pros and 3 cons, but I realised I've just finished on a con, which was a negative thing, and I thought that's not a really good way to end a video. So I'm going to do one more positive, and the one last positive thing that I would say about running my own company is the satisfaction from it in so many different ways. I feel very a lot of satisfaction out of it's in a non sort of grimy capitalist way. It's very satisfying when you earn money. I remember the first paycheck we ever got from someone to the slackline school, and I was like, that's money someone's paid us to go and do this. That's amazing. And it's very satisfying when, you know, people sort of go, oh, well done, you've made a living. Not an easy feat in this day and age, but at the same time, it's not all just about making money and stuff. I feel very satisfied about, like, yesterday we were at a show that we've been at for 6 years in a row. Just that in itself, that these people, this small country show has said, yeah, we want you back every year. We want you back every year because people enjoy it so much. And seeing some of the kids who've been there every year, year on year, having a go at the slacklines, enjoying it, having fun, is super exciting and heartwarming. Going to Glastonbury with the slacklines, but also going and riding bikes there as well. People coming up afterwards and saying, that was amazing. I had a real, like, super unbelievable moment about a year ago when a kid came up to me at a show and he had a trials bike with him, and he said, hey, how's it going? And I was like, hey man, how are you? And he was like, I'm a trials rider now. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't know who he was, but he said, I got into trials because I saw a show that you did like a year ago, and I loved what you were doing, so I went home and I asked my dad if he could buy me a trials bike, and he did, and now I'm riding a bike, and he showed me some back hops and some tricks and stuff, and I was like, dude, that's awesome. Inside I was like crying, because I was like, that's me. I saw a bike trial show like the ones that I do. Well, no, I saw a much better one by a guy called Martin Ashton, who now works for GMBN. I saw a show of his like 20 years ago, and that got me into bike trials, and that's what my life has been like. So I was looking at this kid who was sort of like the same kind of thing. Again, I'm really nothing compared to Martin Ashton, but it was a really heartwarming moment when a kid came up and just said, I'm riding a bike because I saw you do a show, and it's really nice to see you again. And I was like, that's a really nice feeling. It's a really nice feeling to get that. And also, the one more thing I'll say about general satisfaction in my job is having been able to work with a lot of friends, and to have put some money in their pockets. Not a lot, really not a lot. I mean, I don't make a lot of money out of what I do. I make just enough to have the things that I need to keep the roof over my head. But I have been, you know, fortunate enough to give some people some work, and they seem to want to do it. At the same time, I've fallen out with a bunch of friends about work and stuff before. It's scary, really scary working with your friends, because sometimes, you know, things get miscommunicated, or sometimes you realise they weren't as good of friends as they thought. And I would put myself in that as well, like, because sometimes things just don't go exactly how you'd plan them to. And the thing that I would certainly say about running a business is I have been surprised at how I've reacted to certain things that have happened. So that's my one caveat and warning about running your own business. I would highly encourage anyone that has a passion, they want to turn into a business, to go and start one. But my one warning would be careful about working with your friends. I'm lucky that I have some very, very, very good friends, and they have, on the whole, been kind enough to help me out and brave enough to tell me when I'm wrong. So it's been a really interesting journey so far. So yeah, that's my last positive about why running your own business is a good thing. So that was my 3 cons and 4 pros on why you should run your own business. I hope this has been a little bit informative. I know it's been all very much about what I do for a business, which is not something which translates immediately to everyone else's passions and stuff, but it just should give people an idea about what running your business is like a little bit. I hope this hasn't come across as some big ego trip and me just talking about myself a lot, but it has been really fun and really cathartic talking about this. So thank you for watching. If you've got all the way to the end of this, well done, you deserve a medal. But I do hope you've enjoyed it. I might do some more of these things about talking about business and stuff like that, because I think there's probably some good advice I've got to give. So yeah, do subscribe if you want to see some more videos, obviously. Do let your friends know about this, and do put anything in the comments about what whatever you want to know about running a business or anything else like that. Ask me questions, tell me if you think I'm talking shit, whatever you want, just let me know. But yeah, I hope you're all having a lovely Friday afternoon, and that it's not as wet and as rainy as it is out here. But yeah, enjoy your weekend, and I will see you guys all soon. Thanks very much. Bye bye.